watching Channel 4, signing on with your views.
Hello, welcome to Your Views. This is the third in our season of 4 programmes looking at serious problems affecting the deaf community. Today we look at the drugs problem in a programme first shown last year. Later we'll be giving you the number of a helpline you can call, so have your pen and paper ready. The programme was presented by myself, Rachel Bastiker and John Wilson. We begin with John describing some of the drugs used by young people.
There are a wide variety of drugs, from cannabis or dope, amphetamines or speed whiz, cocaine, crack, tablets called ecstasy, E for short, which come in various different colours. There's also heroin and LSD. Tobacco and alcohol are also drugs, though these are not illegal.
Those substances, when taken, can give you different feelings, which at first may be enjoyable, which is why most people start. But they also carry a lot of disastrous side effects. They can depress you, make you anxious or aggressive, and can destroy people's everyday lives. Drugs are harmful and can be made more so by not knowing how genuine they are, as they can be mixed with various other substances like sugar, chalk, or more lethal drugs.
You may think that drug taking is confined to the hearing world. Sign On has been looking into this and found that this is not the case. The BDA Health Promotion Unit have reported an increasing use of drugs by deaf people, especially teenagers, with incidents happening all over the country. Rachel Bastiker brings you this report.
Thank you, John and Carolyn. I'm here in Blackpool, which is where many young deaf people have been coming for years to enjoy a weekend of fun and relaxation. Nothing wrong in that. But there have been reports that drug use has become part of the event. Why does this happen? This is something we asked Michael Linnell, Manager of Information and Publications for Lifeline's North West Drugs Agency in Manchester.
Drug use is very common at the moment. It's far more common than most people know. In Manchester and Liverpool, recent research has suggested that it's nearly half of young people before they leave school have experimented. The sort of drugs they're experimenting with are very cheap drugs. They're drugs like LSD, amphetamine, cannabis. They're drugs that are easily available. It's partly the price, it's partly the availability, but this is the reason why young people are using drugs today.
During our investigations, we interviewed several deaf people about their experiences with drugs. What you are about to see is some of the stories they have told us. For reasons of confidentiality, the stories have been relayed by 2 deaf people to protect their identity. When I left school, I went to a deaf residential college that would give me tutorial support, and also the chance to mix with deaf friends in the evening. It was while I was at the college that I met a deaf boy and started going out with him. I knew that he'd been involved with taking drugs like grass, glue sniffing and acid, and I thought to myself, why not give it a try? So I did, at a house party. My first attempt was with dope or grass. I'd smoked cigarettes before, though just at parties. Anyhow, the dope, the grass, it was okay, but I knew not to go overboard, as I didn't want to become hooked on it, but just to use it for special occasions like parties. Another thing I tried was speed at a friend's party. It looked a bit like medicine, an aspirin. I was disappointed with it, I thought it would make me feel high, but in actual fact all it did was keep me awake. I got really annoyed because all my friends were going to sleep, and although I wanted to, I couldn't. I had so much energy, and it took 24 hours to wear off. Having tried dope, I tried speed and poppers. I think maybe now my curiosity has been satisfied. My boyfriend, however, was becoming dependent on drugs, and that led to lots of rows between us. It wasn't much good if he was high on something and I wasn't. I felt as though I was being sucked in, especially when he started dealing and selling. I kept on at him to stop, to give up, but it was impossible, so we split up. Once, when I was in the college, I was sent for by someone from the halls of residence, which was separate from the college itself. They didn't tell me why, and I felt just like a little girl being taken to task. When I got there, I was kept waiting for ages, and I noticed that someone had been rummaging around in my room. Eventually, I was sent for and had to go into another room which was filled with people like the police and the staff at the halls of residence who were waiting to interview me. They asked me if I'd taken or tried drugs. Obviously, I denied it. I wasn't going to tell anyone anything. Later, I found that the police's evidence was that someone had told them that I used to go with this boy who was involved in dealing drugs, and they automatically tarred me with the same brush. My ex-boyfriend had disappeared. I didn't have a clue where he was, and I was really scared. It put me in a difficult position. I told the police my story, and they seemed to accept what I had to say. I was sort of on probation at the college and was supervised by the staff. Eventually, the boy came back to face the music and was expelled from the college and the residence. The experience was horrendous and really shook me up. I'm much more careful to avoid getting caught. Since that time, I've noticed that drugs are becoming much more widespread amongst the young deaf community and students. Things like dope, E, speed, and poppers. It's so easy to get hold of, and it's a real part of youth culture nowadays. Suppose someone wanted to use soft drugs for relaxation. What should they know about the legality of them?
Drug use today is so widespread and so common that a lot of young people tend to forget that it's an illegal activity. It's an activity where you can go to prison, but this is quite rare for drug use, for possession anyway. But even if you don't go to prison or you don't get a heavy fine, it can mean that a criminal record can severely affect your future career prospects.
I was 12 years old when I first started smoking cigarettes. I liked it and it became a regular thing. When I was 14, I had my first go with dope. A hearing friend introduced me to it. I was a bit hesitant at first, but he said it was just like cigarettes. I had a go and got quite high. So I did it a second and third and fourth time, and again it gave me a really happy and relaxed feeling, which I liked. When I was about 15, 16, a hearing friend again introduced me to speed or whiz. I had 2 grams, which gave me 2 lines, and I snorted it. It gave me a real buzz. I was wide awake. Sleep was impossible. I went on for hours doing loads of different things, drinking and stuff. I felt great. When the speed wore off, though, I felt totally knackered and very depressed. My joints ached, I couldn't walk, all my energy had gone. Often with the dope, I would get very ill, be sick. My face would be pure white. I'd get panicky too, thinking I was going to die. With the dope making me so relaxed, I would fart a lot and, you know, shit myself because there's no control. With my hearing friends, I'd go to the pub. We'd get together and decide which house to go to. There would be loads of sex going on. We'd watch the telly and take dope or acid, and we'd believe everything was in slow motion. We'd just watch it and giggle. If we had no money, or dope, or acid, we'd go shoplifting. We'd nick jeans, rings, baby clothes and shoes and sell them on in safe pubs or friends' houses where we don't get caught. Once we'd got more cash, we'd buy more drugs. I'm only 17 now, and I wish I'd never started doing drugs, but it's hard. I can't give up. It's too late. I've been taking dope and acid now for the past 3 years. My family are worried sick about me, and I know that they love me, but I can't give up. We have loads of arguments, but I'm usually off my head when they get on at me. I'm really stupid. It's so hard to stop. To buy the stuff is really easy. You can get it anywhere, except when you've got no money. Then it gets annoying. I don't steal from my family anymore, but I do still nick stuff from shops. Maybe you could try a drug, dope, just once to see what it's like. Then stop. Maybe you'd be okay. But then you take it a second time, then more, eventually you get hooked. I've stopped using speed as my face was a dead giveaway. My nose would be bright red, all around my face would be covered in spots. I was always wiping drips away from my nose. You can tell a lot from a face. I like acid, but stopped because I'm worried about brain damage in the future. I'm going to carry on smoking dope though. I reckon I spend about 100 quid a week on it.
Michael, is it true that dope is addictive and can LSD cause future brain damage? Also, suppose someone wants help and advice. Where can they go?
Different drugs have different risks. Cannabis isn't an addictive drug. Cannabis is a drug that there aren't really any notifiable health risks. LSD is a drug that can often frighten people. It's a very powerful drug, but there isn't really any evidence of any long-term brain damage. Certainly people who've got existing mental health problems or people who are very depressed shouldn't try it. If people are worried about drugs, they should contact their local drug agency. There are drug agencies up and down the country.
In part 2 of the programme, we will reveal what the attitude is about drug use within the young deaf community.
And also see what information is available to help you cope with the issue of drug use. Join us again in a few minutes.
Welcome back to our programme on drugs within the deaf community. We conducted a small survey of young deaf people on how much they are aware of drugs and their use. Although this cannot be totally accurate, it does give us an insight into how much the young deaf know about drugs. Here's John with the information.
The majority of our interviewees were between 14 and 18 years of age. 97% said they were aware of various drugs. 55% said they knew the difference between soft drugs like cannabis and hard drugs like crack, coke and heroin. 29% have been approached by people offering and selling drugs. 26% had seen or were aware of drug taking in the deaf community. 20%, that's 1 in every 5, have been persuaded or tempted to try it. 29%, that's 1 in 3, saw nothing wrong in taking drugs.
We all like to enjoy ourselves, and here in Blackpool the young deaf are meeting to do just that. The attraction of being together with bright lights is fun. Are any of them concerned about drug use? Do any of them have any problems? We've been finding out. I first knew when I went to college, Doncaster College, when I was 16. It was just a minor thing then, not very popular. Then I left college when I was 19. I went into the hearing world and sort of forgot about it. I started to know a lot more about a year or two ago because I've got a hearing family, a brother and friends. I have tried some, I'm quite happy to say that, but it didn't make me feel relaxed or anything. I felt nothing. I actually thought it was a waste of time. I don't want to waste my money, I'd rather spend it on clothes and things. I don't agree with it, but it's none of my business. If they want to try it, fine. It's up to them and their friends. But as long as I'm not forced to do anything, I'm happy.
At 16, when I left college, that's when I really started socialising. It was a deaf person who showed me drugs, you know, soft drugs like pop, dope, and so on. Hard drugs, well, I wouldn't know how to get them. It's difficult. But pot's easily available. When I started school, it was rumoured drugs were there. But I didn't know what drugs were. I just thought things like coffee or aspirin. I never really thought about it. When I found out more, they said it'll make you feel relaxed. I would have liked to try, but I didn't feel under pressure to do so. I just couldn't be bothered. All my friends were involved in drug taking in some way. It's just tradition, really. They want to try. Others just drink to make them feel relaxed. I've tried dope about 4 years ago. It didn't work. So I don't really know about it. Maybe the person that made the joint wasn't experienced or something. I don't think drugs are a good thing.
Well, when I was about 15, I went to the local fun fair where I live, and I saw some people rolling what I thought was cigarettes. So I asked my friend what was going on. She said it's drugs like grass and everything. I didn't know what it was for, really. She said it was to make you happy and relaxed. My friend tried to force me to have a go, and I thought, no, it's a waste of time. I'd rather smoke cigarettes than drugs. Last year I learned more about drugs through the deaf world because they're open about it, like in pubs, deaf clubs or outside. Things like that, but I wouldn't try it myself. I think it's a waste of time.
I found out about drugs from my brother. He showed me, as I had got no idea. Anyway, I tried it, and I was wide awake for 24 hours. Then I understood. I learned that way. So I started at 12. At 13 or 14, I went to school at a PHU. But nobody there had heard of drugs. 1 or 2 had heard through friends or family, but had never tried themselves. I gave it to them so they could see what it was like, but they didn't want to do it again. Now poppers, my brother gave me poppers. They're drugs, and it gives you a real buzz. So I influenced my friends with those too. When I was older, I went to Derby College and mixed with the deaf community. When we talked about pot, people from all over the country had tried it, just like I had. And I thought I was the only one. It was a surprise to find others had too. The deaf gay community, I find most of them had tried it too. Fairground people used it as well. It wasn't only hearing people as I thought, it was everyone. Nobody is perfect, no way. When I went abroad, it was the same there. There's no difference, it's worldwide. I'm sure there are dealers in the deaf community, here in Blackpool. I've noticed them, black and white people. It's not just hearing people as I thought, you know, it's everybody.
I became aware of drugs when I was 12, 13 from leaflets and television. I was 16, 17 when I heard about it within the deaf community. Yes, it's there. Well, adults are really blind. They don't see it going on. They've their community and we've got our youth community. Of course it exists within the youth community, discos and other places, yeah.
Young people today tend to be quite knowledgeable about drugs. There is misinformation about, but generally speaking, they know far more than their parents do. This, in a way, creates a bit of a gap. We find that there's a great deal of difficulty between parents talking to young people and vice versa. There is information for everybody. They should seek that information out, and I would advise people to find out as much as they can about drugs.
A lot of varied replies and information. Young deaf people know that drugs exist in their community. Some have tried it, and certainly it's becoming more open. Perhaps they have tried it themselves, or at least know others who have. But do the young deaf get accurate information or advice? What about parental guidance? How do they get advice? Here's John and Carolyn with the latest information on what's available. Thank you, Rachel. Recently released is this video called The Right Approach, aimed at deaf parents, giving them information on what they should look for. Here's a clip.
Amphetamines, also called speed or uppers. They're usually pills, though some forms can be injected. Maybe some of the older viewers may remember when amphetamines were once prescribed for depression. But doctors now realise they are dangerous.
At last, some information available in BSL. Pity the illustrations of what the drugs look like are not very clear.
Also just published is a booklet by the BDA Health Promotion Unit.
There are also other leaflets available from your doctors or local advice centres. If you want more information, you can contact the BDA Health Promotion Unit on this confidential number. 01270 250 743 text, 01270 250 736 voice. The lines are open Monday to Friday between 10 AM and 4 PM and every Wednesday evening from 7 PM till 10 PM. There's also a 24-hour answering service. Next week we'll be back with a programme discussing the serious issue of child abuse in the deaf community. Join us for that.